Hello, welcome once again to Speakeasy with Paul F. Tompkins. I am still Paul F. Tompkins, and my guest this time is a comedian, an actor, and don't look at my camera, and a podcaster. You get one. Please say hello to Marc Maron. Marc, hello. Thank you for being here.
It's nice to see you, Paul.
Nice to see you as well.
I'm trying to figure out how to sit at this situation.
Do you feel...
like back when I did drink, this was if I was in this situation, it was like here.
Right.
Or like this.
Right.
But just sitting up and having a conversation like grown men, I don't know how to do it.
Do you feel, I think that you got your hands at 10 and 2, which is always, that's always
What
good.
do I do with these?
You drank for a while.
Sure.
And then you stopped doing that.
Yeah, I stopped doing all of it.
You stopped doing
now,
it, except nicotine.
No, what I do now is every morning for about the first hour or two, I drink about a pot and a half of coffee. And then I'll do about 3 nicotine lozenges. So the frequency I'm operating at is it's like that's my day.
What is the longest you've gone now without a stimulant, a low-level stimulant?
That's crazy talk. Look, the way I figured, if it's not screwing my life up, I'm okay.
Right.
But it's unclear with coffee. I'm at a point with coffee now where I don't know if you've had the experience where you're at a certain age where you look at something and your body says like, I think we've had enough, but your brain is like, no, never enough.
Oh, I think everything.
Yeah,
everything I look at? Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
You famously love coffee. Do you drink it black?
Yeah.
You have to, right?
I do think you have to. I don't know if it's the best thing for you, but you have to drink it black. You have to, drink it as much as possible. I like to go right from, like now, I go right from groggy to hostile. There's no, hey, I'm up. It's right from like, what is happening?
How long does it take you to go through that pot of coffee in the morning?
I knock back about 3 cups, and then at some point during the day, like not even knowing it, I'll make another pot, and then just sort of chip away at that. And I carry around to-go cups. So right now, I brought a to-go cup in here that I have at my home. It's like I buy bulk to-go cups.
The cardboard cups?
Yeah, the kind you get at coffee places. And now part of my brain is like, they didn't throw that away. Like I'm thinking ahead to when I can drink my cold coffee and put it back in my car. That's where I'm at.
There's a lot going on for you right now. Your IFC show, you play the titular Maron.
Yes, I play a slightly heightened version of myself. It's a tricky role.
How slight is slightly?
It sort of evolved. Like I didn't really know how to act necessarily. I had not had that experience. In the first season was a learning curve in terms of... Because
you had done some acting.
Sure, a bit.
But
not,
to do this...
Yeah.
And especially playing yourself, which is, slightly heightened or not, it's a totally different mindset than if you're...
Absolutely. Just playing a part or just showing up. And like these are, because of the budget of the show, I'm in every scene. So we're doing... 8 to 15 page days of all me.
Which is a lot.
It's a lot of me for anybody. It's like doubling the amount of me that I would usually take because I'm just me normal, and then I'm like I got to go act like me now.
Right.
There's a lot going on.
You're you all day. Some version of yourself all day long.
I had to assess with the first season, going into the second season, what is the character? Like the first season, I was just sort of like, I'm just showing up for work. I hope this goes well. And now you can make, looking at it, sort of what worked, what didn't work, what are the choices I can make as a performer. I had a little more confidence going into this season as a performer to make comedic choices. We scheduled properly because I'm part of the writing as well. I wanted to make sure all the scripts were done before we started shooting because you don't want to be in the middle of a shoot and be like, we got to do a rewrite. I'm like, no, because it causes panic.
Yeah.
So everything's sort of paced out pretty well, and I think the stories are good. So playing me was a little easier.
When you were a kid, you were into...
Is it crying time?
No.
Okay.
We're going to talk about happy stuff. When you were a kid, you loved comedy.
Yes.
And you and your little brother, right, would watch, all kinds of comedy on TV.
We listened to the records.
I
remember just laying on the floor, with the record, you put it on, you listen to like the 7 words you can't say on TV like 9 times and just laugh equally as much every time.
So did you always knew like, that's for me? Did it always seem like something you had to get into?
I think when I really think back on it, what it was that, when I was a kid, I always felt a little out of place. I always felt a little weird, a little different. Yeah, my parents were a little self-involved. And I really, when I look back on it, I think comedians seem to have a handle on things. Like, the way they were presenting their point of view of reality. It was disarming, it was entertaining, and they seemed to be able to handle stuff.
They seemed comfortable.
Yeah.
They seemed comfortable in their own skin. Like, hey,
what a lie!
It's me.
What a lie that turned out to be. That was
we really got sold a bill of goods.
We certainly did. But they did seem to have an angle on stuff, and I think that just that idea of not being threatened by everything and being able to sort of frame it comedically was very appealing to me. It gave me a lot of relief. And why I chose that as my profession, or why I was so gunning for it, it's unclear to me. But I really think what I said before, that I don't know that I ever was seeking out to be an entertainer as much as I was to speak and find my own space and have a point of view and kind of be myself. For some reason in my brain, I was like, I'm going to be able to be myself up there. That's where it's going to happen.
Right.
And 25 years later, it happened.
I certainly was. I don't know if surprise is the right word, but I remember when it dawned on me that it's a process that will always continue. The finding your voice,
right?
Because it's really defining who you are and learning more things about yourself. And when you're at a certain point, you think like, I got it all figured out. Yeah, I know who I am.
At a certain point, at every point.
But then you just keep living. Yeah. And it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's right. You are humbled.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Yeah. It's like when you're younger, you're like, I'm the guy. And then life just sort of keeps pounding away. Heartbreak after disappointment. And then it's sort of like, I'm the guy, right? And then you go through that period of like, I am not the guy. And then eventually you're like, I'm okay with who I am. That's the best you could hope for.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable in my skin. The worst has probably happened. In terms of everything that's happened on a comedy stage, other than me peeing myself or crying, has happened.
Right.
So there's a certain fearlessness that I think really happens eventually. That that fear goes away. Whereas most of our job, for most of our career, early on, is pretending like we're not afraid and engaging whatever tools we need to do that. And then eventually, if you're lucky, you're like, I don't care. I'm not. I've got nothing to lose anymore. Right. You're not sitting backstage about to go on, going, oh, this is gonna suck, man. I can't. Just ruining your show before you even step out. You've already bombed as they're bringing you up. Right, now, welcome Marc Maron. Now it's over.
It's such a weird thing that when and I never really thought about this in this way, but I think it's a very common thing that when you start out in stand-up, you're sort of led to believe, because I don't think you just arrive at this on your own, that the audience is the enemy, that you have to, they are an adversary that you have to overpower and defeat, as opposed to, hey, these people want to have a good time. They came to laugh.
Yeah, it's bad to open with, is there a problem?
Is
there? Yeah, I used to defy them to like me. I never could quite frame it right. But a lot of that, I guess it's changed. But I think because by the time I started the podcast, I honestly had given up on whatever the dream was. Like, I was broke. I was gone through my second divorce, and I was like, well, you have to take stock as a grown person. What happens now? Your career's not going anywhere. So I literally had to accept that, like, all right, I'm not going to be a relevant comic. I'm not going to have TV opportunities, but I do have to continue living if I choose that. And it was really kind of a heartbreaking thing, but it really happened. Like, what are my limitations? Where am I really at? And I let go of a lot of stuff. And I had nothing. I really had nothing to lose anymore. And I think because of that, accepting that genuine humility of I don't know if it's failing, but things not working out.
Here's what I think it is, if I may, is that I think that you, in this weird amorphous business that we're in, you have in your mind this idea of, well, this will mean I am successful if this thing happens. Right. And so you are working towards that thing happening. Right. And you sort of feel like, it's this or nothing. Like, it's got to be this thing. The weird thing. Then I'll know. Right. Then I'll know.
But the weird thing is, like, you might not even want that thing.
Exactly.
That's it. You're just sort of like, that's it. Yeah. Like, as a 50-year-old person, sometimes I'm like, gee, what do I like to do? Yeah. And why am I not doing more of that? Yeah. And like, how come I can't buy new curtains? I'm a grown man. Like, how do people function in life? That's the other thing about choosing the business we've chosen. And it's like, we don't live like regular people. We're completely ill-equipped to function in the civilized world. We're like animals who dress properly.
But when you do a regular everyday thing, it feels like such a victory.
Oh, I know.
Where it's like, this is a problem that needed addressing. I went out to the store, I bought the appropriate supplies, and I solved it myself.
And you want to be rewarded. You're like,
oh yeah,
where are my parents?
Oh, yeah.
So I could show them like
I changed a doorknob in my house, and I told people about it. I saw people later that day like, I changed the doorknob in my house.
Instagram it. I did this.
Your podcast is WTF. How did you, at the point that you were talking about, where you realized, I got nothing to lose, and you're in this process of kind of redefining what it is you want, and figuring that out. How did you arrive at an interview format?
I really think what happened was I had done some radio, and I knew that I liked audio. I knew that I did okay on that mic. There was something about it. Once you learn how to be on that mic, there's something very compelling about it. So when we first started doing the show, it was just, I had not listened to podcasts. I knew that Jimmy was doing one, that Pardo was doing one, and Jimmy Dore, and Kevin Smith and Crow. I knew it was an option, and I was like, well, let's try it. And initially, the first 12 episodes, I knew I wanted to talk to other people, but I literally had people in the room. Like I had a guy in the room. I would talk to my producer. We had segments. I would do phoners. I had people in the studio, and as it went on, I think that once I got home and started doing it out of my garage, that I needed to actually reintegrate myself into the comedic community. That I had alienated myself from a lot of people, and I had gotten bitter, I'd gotten cynical. So I think the way it evolved into an interview show was really out of my need to talk to people, not even interview. I still don't think what I do is interviewing. I think that the best that can happen is I have an engaged conversation. I don't really have questions, but I want to follow. I want to connect, and I needed to connect, and I think that once that started to happen. And if you listen to those early shows, you have this experience of like, man, Maron's talking about himself a lot. He seems to be approaching these people for help. That was the goal of the show, was like, I need you to help me out. Right. I'm a little lost.
And it's very difficult to ask for help sometimes.
No, it's horrible. Yeah. I've decided that inside of me, I think there's like a 6-year-old lost at a mall. And how does help come out of them? Like, Mom. Right. And it's just tricky because sometimes when you're getting help, that just becomes you're sort of like your crutch. It doesn't mean you're integrating, to whatever tools you need to do what you're saying. Yeah. And sometimes it's just as simple as sort of like, well, take a breath. And I always hate when people say that. Pause, take a time out. Like, that's ridiculous. Have you tried meditating? No. Like any sort of suggestion that might help you is sort of like, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. And then you really realize how committed you are to the drama to
the devil,
That's right. Yeah. Because that guy, you've been with him a long time. He's gotten you where you've gotten one way or another. Yeah. But usually,
thanks a lot.
Exactly. But you have to negotiate with that guy. Yeah. At some point, you're like, just hang out. All right. Let's do this at home. Yeah.
For some comics, acting is always part of the goal. Is like some guys that and women that definitely want that sitcom. They want like a network multicam. Yeah. This is based around my comedy, whatever. And some people, I think most comics probably, if somebody offered that to me, I would not say no.
Right.
How much of where you are now was a thing that you were working towards, and how much of it was just like, let me take this opportunity that's come along?
Well, I think that I always had an interest in it because in college I did acting, I did some directing, I wrote some stuff. I mean, it was always part of what I wanted to do. I never really trained for it. I think I have some natural ability. When I watch myself act, I think I did all right. And certainly from watching my peers do acting, there's sort of a curve with comedians, because you're so self-conscious at first, and you don't think you are. You're like, I'm doing it. And then, when I watch myself, I'm like, what are you doing with your hands? What are you doing? Like, and I know what I'm doing. I'm sitting there thinking, like, what do I do with my hands? So, I think Jim Norton actually has a bit on that, But I think I'm compelling, and I think that I have some natural ability, but I do not consider myself an actor. That's the weird thing. It's like when you see real actors, you're like, wow, that guy's really doing it. Like, And I don't know that I'm there yet. This is show business. This is real show business.
Right.
This isn't you going out to a comic book store to talk about your cat. There's 70 people here. There are cameras going. Yes, that is Judd Hirsch.
Right.
And you're about to pretend he's your father.
Right.
So this is what you signed up for.
Yeah.
And it's thrilling. It's thrilling.
Do you enjoy the craft of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that confident, but I know that all I can do is show up and listen to people that I trust about what needs to be done. I had, our friend Dave Anthony, because I needed a comic. I needed a guy who knew the life, who knew me, who understood. And so I told him, I said, keep an eye on the choices I'm making, because in television, the director's job is not really to do that, what people think a director does. Like, can we do that again? And could you give me a little more? They're just sort of like, we need coverage. We need to move on.
Yeah.
All right, can we get closer? And you're like, am I still part of this?
Yeah.
There's something going on. but I'm the guy on the camera.
Yeah, don't stand there.
Yeah. So I made sure that, my showrunners and Dave were sort of watching me to, like, if I could make a better choice. I'm very open to collaboration. I'm not stubborn like that.
Is that a relatively new development? Do you think that even 10 years ago, do you think you would have been that open to collaboration?
Well, I think I just didn't know how to do it. Like,
Right.
when, early on when I was doing comedy, like when Dave Cross and there was a crew in Boston that I'd started with. And Cross and a bunch of other people came out here to do Cross Comedy, which, as you know, became the predecessor to Mr. Show. And you were part of all that, and I remember making a conscious decision when because I was there. I wrote and was part of the first couple of shows, the sketch shows at Catch a Rising Star in New York. And when they we're gonna try and make this happen, like, that's crazy. I'm a comedian. You guys go to LA. I'll go to New York. And 15 years later, Mr. Show is the most popular thing with a certain type of person, and I'm like, and I'm on Cape Cod doing a one-nighter. There's that moment where, like, I should learn how to collaborate. Because that's the one thing I noticed about even talking to people on my podcast, that there's a new generation of comedians and comedic performers that don't come from this weird rogue, sort of, rebellious, job of a stand-up. Because there's something about a stand-up that's sort of like, fuck everybody.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. But there's all these kids that come up at UCB and in sketch and they're all well adjusted. They're happy to work with other people. I'm like, who are you?
Because they start in a tradition of collaboration
That's
as
right.
opposed to a solitary tradition.
That's right. But we're solitary because we want to. It's part of our personalities. We're unique beings, and that's a diplomatic way of saying assholes.
Right.
But like I sort of had to really broaden my concept of what comedy is and where it comes from. Because a lot of these, like the idea that like comics are all screwed up, like not these new kids. Some of them are actually having a good time. They enjoy hanging out with people.
Right.
I think from doing morning radio and really having to trust people in a production sense,
Yeah.
and relying on people to, like, that really changed my mind. Like when I did Air America and we were getting up in the middle of the night to do this thing, and you got a momentum going, and everybody's got their jobs, and you're talking, and I loved it. I love collaboration. I love suggestions. I like trying things. I will do things if I trust you.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that has to be there. And
Right.
certainly by the second season of Maron, I trusted everybody, and I worked with great people. Bobcat Goldthwait directed a few, and I knew the crew, and the DP was great. So I really relied on them, and I was, trusting, and I took chances.
Yeah, it paid off.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see.
We will see. The new season starts May 8th
Yes,
on
sir.
IFC.
Yeah. The first season is available on Netflix if you want to catch up.
First season available on Netflix if you want to catch up.
Yeah.
Binge away.
Good.
You have a couple other things happening. You have a special coming out, Thinky Pain.
That's on Netflix now. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you can see that right now.
Yeah, it's coming out on vinyl.
You don't
too.
have to wait.
Yeah,
Really?
you can put it on vinyl
Have
and
you had
CD.
a vinyl issue before?
No.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's a double record. Yeah, double album.
You can snort some rails off that thing?
You bet. No, wait a minute. Where are we? Did we just go back in time?
We did.
Why? You holding?
It's the 90s. And your book is Attempting Normal.
Yeah.
Which I presume is about you and your life.
Yes, it's out in paperback, and it's a little too much information. For those who want too much information, this is a great book for you.
What is one piece of information that you think might be too much?
Really?
Sure.
From the book?
A little teaser.
Okay, an awkward, one of the two experiences I had with a prostitute, one asked me to feel a lump in her breast.
That is indeed, all the way around. Too much information. Marc Maron, thank you so much.
Great talking.
Pleasure chatting with
Good
you.
To see you.
That is it for this edition of Speakeasy. Please join us again next time when my guest will be a different person.
Nice.
Did she have a lump?
Yeah.
Oh, how's she doing? Did she make it?
I don't know. I hope she made it. It's sad.
Tell me if you feel this.
Yes, I felt that.
No. I was as close as
think
possible.
Let the record show.
Nope.
We have so many angles on that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Try to catch me.
Oh.
I've never been caught before.
One of our cameramen is Abraham Zapruder.